Hello, everyone. My name is Emir Beganović, and the title of my talk for today is Analyzing Global CDN Performance using RIPE Atlas. I'm a lead software architect at Property Finder Group, and we are a company spanning 3 continents and 7 countries. So recently we had a talk with our CTO to investigate our approach to the CDNs that we use and to rethink our relationship with one CDN that we had, maybe to go to multi-CDN solution or something similar. Then I realized there's a perfect scientific tool that we can use from RIPE NCC, which is RIPE Atlas, that we can use to get real measurements from production data to see which CDN would perform better in which region and effectively help us in making our choice. So basically, maybe for beginning, can you please raise hands, all of you who didn't attend yesterday's morning session by Alexandra. So we had a RIPE Atlas tutorial and workshop. Okay, thanks. So basically, RIPE Atlas was introduced yesterday in a workshop where we did ping, trace route, and a couple of other things. I have one in here, so it's a really small device, Raspberry Pi based. It has an Ethernet connector and micro USB power. And it's the largest internet measurement network ever made. So when you think about it, it actually makes sense to have such a thing similar to all the weather stations that we have in the world, used to forecast weather in real life. The same thing now we have, thanks to hundreds of volunteers, we have 10,000 probes in around the world. Basically, they are based on help of people like you, and they are currently distributed worldwide in almost all the countries in the world. Basically, you can get credits for having probes being up, and you can also get them by other people using your measurements, using your probes to create measurements to also earn credits. You can send credits to other people. You can get credits for free from events like this. And you can create your own measurements using web UI and APIs. Basically, the coverage of IPv4 and IPv6 AS networks is pretty much the same, below 10%, but all the big ISPs have a lot of probes in them. All the countries in the world are almost connected in RIPE Atlas, and this is the statistics of probes, which is constantly increasing. A big drawback of RIPE Atlas being volunteer-based is that some, like almost more than 50% of probes get abandoned. So over time, people just disconnect them and stop using them, and they are effectively devices sitting somewhere not contributing to the system. In Bosnia, we have 11 probes that are currently active and connected, and 16 which are abandoned. Using web UI is really simple. We had this presentation yesterday, so basically you can use the web UI in a simple steps wizard and create measurements. On the right side, you can get a summary of all the costs, so all the credits that you will pay for this measurement, but you can also do this through an API. So for me, in my case, if I wanted to analyze all the countries in the world one by one, selecting the probes and the types of them, using different tags, it would be cumbersome to go through this manually for 182 countries. Basically, you can also use REST API, which is in JSON format. It has very nice documentation, and it is very easy to send requests and consume it. And this is exactly what we did in this scenario. In my case, I had the Atlas probe for more than 5 years up and collected almost 60 million credits. So for me, it was free to use. And I also did a couple of analyses before for private use and also for things like this. Basically, when it comes to CDNs, I hope most of you are aware of the concept of CDNs, all the benefits that they provide for us. So I've just put a couple of topics on the slides. Basically, in the case of my company and similar companies, it's usually that all the terabytes of assets that we have, we want to serve to our customers in the fastest way possible. So we want to have the best load time there is to optimize our SEO rankings and to offload traffic from our origin servers. Also, we want to ensure that traffic spikes will be handled in case of sudden traffic and that we have best and most efficient caching. So In this case, it's also important to say that in case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, 9 out of 10 most popular websites use a CDN. They use it for different reasons. It's for some to protect themselves from DDoS. For some, it's to save costs of traffic. But also, all the other services that you use day to day, you can think of them like services that are CDN-based. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Netflix, and all the other content networks. And another reason to analyze CDN performance using Ripe Atlas is exactly for this. So let's say you have an idea for a startup that you think will grow a lot in terms of users and scale and have a lot of traffic. You want to pick up CDN from day one. So you want to optimize your costs up front. And for this, it's better for you if you have scientific data with real numbers and not just guessing or something like that. There was a specific methodology that was chosen for this research. Basically, first we defined a list of CDNs to analyze. Currently, some of the CDNs here are one of the most popular in the world, from Akamai, which is a really old player on the market, AWS, CloudFront, Microsoft Azure, Cloudflare, Google Cloud, Fastly, and Cashfly. So it's 7 CDNs that I decided to take. And for some of them, I have additional slides that showcase their points of presence. For example, Google Cloud CDN has these edge points of presence in Europe. They can be used for 2 purposes. So you can have storage attached on Google Cloud, so you can consider it like S3 on AWS, and you can put your static content there. Then you have an option to expose it through their CDN endpoints, and you can also use it for normal APIs or websites through load balancers. For AWS CloudFront, they are a global player with almost 200 points of presences in 29 countries. They have regional edge caches at which all the edge locations are connecting to, so they have already one pre-step for optimization. Cloudflare is, as I said in my yesterday's presentation, is the most popular CDN used in Bosnia, and it is very close by. So we have POPs in Zagreb and Belgrade, and they generate a lot of traffic. Microsoft Azure has 130 POPs and very big network, and you will see later that they have different network tiers. Fastly, also one really popular CDN for different projects of big scale, available in a lot of cities, and planning to expand more and more. Cashfly as well, it's used to be a US-centric CDN, but then they grew out to be a global player. And yeah, so when all the CDNs were chosen, we decided to use Go for its concurrency nature and write a script in less than 200 lines that would go through all the ISO codes of the countries, combine them with all the possible combinations of CDNs that we defined before, and create a 3 packet ping measurement to Ripe Atlas API, selecting up to 50 probes, and using different tags to filter out all the unavailable probes or probes that are not connected. So for most of these CDN providers, you can use well-known host names. For CloudFront and Google Cloud, I had to define another distribution of my own, but all the others are very easy to test. For example, For Once is a well-known DNS resolver from Cloudflare, and all the others are just really big websites. The tags that I used were system IPv4 capable and IPv4 works, and also the one to check that the DNS resolution works correctly. So once we consumed the API response, I created the end file or end database, which will contain all the measurement IDs. We will wait for some time to analyze, to let the results run, because sometimes they take up to 15 minutes. And then we also have to sleep for some time because there is throttling on Ripe Atlas API side. You cannot have more than 100 concurrent measurements, and you cannot spend more than 1 million credits daily. So I guess there's a way to contact Ripe NCC staff and to overcome these limits, but for the purpose of this research, I just extended the time needed for it. Some requests failed, so Ripe Atlas is still not distributed 100% in all the countries in the world, but in my use case, in all the countries that we operate in, it was just fine. So From perspective of one measurement, these would be the results that you would see on Web UI with all the probes and related ASN numbers and round trip time for them. So there's another way to consume this. We want to parse the API results, which are in nice JSON format. We can use the average field, and if we want to even use the best RTT, we can use this from result array. We just fetch the results and then parse them. Basically, I forgot to add one slide which contains the GitHub repository of all the results, but I can share this with you later. All the results are separated by directories of CDN, and then they contained different countries per file. And after this was done, all the measurements were collected from my Atlas API. All the JSON responses were parsed, and then we had a combination of ISO2 country code, fastest CDN for country, and average RTT. So we were just saving to the final database the final outcome of the result set. In the end, this consumed around 50,000 credits, and here are the results. Fastest in most countries turn out to be Cloudflare, but not by that much. So they have a majority of 36%, then Google Cloud, Akamai, CloudFront, Azure, and others. On a world map, it's really, really colorful map. So you cannot say there's a clear winner in some of the continents. Even some areas like Southeast Europe are yielding different results. And here's a map of average CDN latency that we can see that globally in the world, all the CDNs that are the best performance in their countries are around 30 milliseconds to round trip time, or even better. There's an interactive map that I uploaded to exploratory.io, so here's a short link just to access it. You can use it to see all the countries and all the winners from these countries and the average response time from them. And here's a map of Europe. So we can see that Cloudflare is in red. You can see that in Romania, Serbia, and similar neighboring countries, Cloudflare is exactly the best winner, but in the middle of Europe, so in the Central Europe, Azure turned out to be really good in Austria and Germany. So results are a little bit divided. Average CDN latency worldwide per country. These were the results, so basically 36 milliseconds doesn't mean that this was the average of the country's probes. Basically, all the 50 probes that were returned and that I got in the measurement, this was, again, random. For example, if you have a country where there are 500 or 600 probes, you could still get 50 working connected probes fully randomly. So if there could be a V2 of this research, I would do this measurement a couple of times and then get the best average time. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's a little bit different compared to global results. We have to have in mind that not all the AS numbers in country have RIPE Atlas installed with them, but the results turn out to be that Google Cloud is the fastest CDN from our country. And in the end, to conclude, Cloudflare has the best geographical spread, and from what you can see on their website, they are always constantly adding points of presence. They have around 175 points of presence already. Akamai used to be the best, but the most expensive for a very long time. They had different types of agreements with ISPs, with private peering, and you could never see a network map that they have. You could never see exactly where are they offering their services, but in Middle East and North Africa region, they are doing really good job. For Google Cloud, you have to have in mind that you can pay premium price for premium network tier. Basically, then the traffic will be routed differently, and it will not use peering, but their own transit routes. Azure is also a little bit specific because when you create a CDN endpoint distribution on Azure, you can choose between Verizon, Akamai, and Microsoft. So all the companies kind of related in history to Microsoft where, for example, they used extensive network of Verizon in US. And you can also use Akamai through them, which will give you a slight 10 to 15% discount. Any questions?
It's Vesna Manojlović. I used to be a community builder for the RIPE Atlas, so I'm really happy that you're using RIPE Atlas and talking about it. I have a question. What would you like us to improve to make this even easier for you and the researchers like you who want to use RIPE Atlas and our data next time or in the future? And we're taking notes.
Okay, so I see this research reproducible on RIPE Atlas Web UI in 5 minutes, basically by adding a drop-down in the current wizard. So I was able to generate up to 50 measurements, measurement from 50 probes from one country, but I couldn't do a checkbox like all the countries, and for each country just give me maximum number of probes, and I would get a big result set. Basically, even the result set with the current RIPE Atlas limits will be too big. So there would be, for this 7 CDNs, it would be too much. And maybe I should use streaming in that case. Yeah, but I see this already in next iterations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah, okay. Hisham Ibrahim, RIPE NCC. First of all, you made a comment about if you need more credits, get in contact with, well, you saw Vesna or anybody from the NCC, they can help give you credits for research like that, and that goes to anybody else in the room. And this is actually my comment, which is I want to thank you for doing the measurements bit, because as a techie, we all know that you cannot improve on anything without doing measurements to see where you are and where you're going. And I would be very interested, based on the discussions that we're having here and the talk about the exchange point and stuff, to see how that will change in a year. So maybe for the next C meeting, if you can continue doing research like this and maybe collaborate with the people from UTIC and the university that are doing this work to see how things improve over the year with other CDNs coming in with the stuff that gets installed. So thank you very much for that. And if, again, credits, let us know. Yeah.